Like Magellan, we set sail on the high seas of discovery to discover once again that which lies beyond our very perception.
Welcome to Discovery Weekly, where, like you just heard, we discover. We're on a magical voyage of discovery. I'm Zach, and I'm once again joined by my buddy Matt.
Hello?
And I discovered something pretty cool last week, in that there is an absolute ton of animal species that, without the help of scientists, would be extinct right now.
Dinosaurs. Jurassic Park.
Yeah, Jurassic Park is real, everyone. You can go and you can die just like everyone in those movies do. Like,
wonderful.
How many times are they going to reopen Jurassic Park? People are just getting mauled.
I mean, come on.
Constantly.
Come on.
But no, I read this cool CNN article that is literally kind of highlighting specific species that have been saved. And one of the really interesting things about this is the amount of thought that has to go into not just like, oh, we don't want the animal to die, but how to reintegrate or essentially work them back into an ecosystem, because give or take in any direction drastically like affects and changes an ecosystem. They have to consider all of that when they go into it.
So there's probably like red wolf and stuff in there.
Yeah, red wolf and red wolf is definitely in here. So they have this giant list of things. You know, there's Eurasian lynx, there's Tasmanian devils, and they actually had a disease. Tasmanian devils were all getting cancer that they called it devil facial tumor disease. They were all dying. 90% of the population died because of a form of cancer that was contagious to them. But they were taken into essentially the lab. You know, they were conservation places that rebuilt this population and started to put them out. And they figured out ways to they were trying to treat and vaccinate against this disease that was like wiping out the entire population. There was a type of Chinese alligator. There was bisons in England. Who knew? Steppe bison. There's a Arabian oryx. Arabian oryx.
What are oryx?
It looks like a antelope, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Like essentially a deer with really long antlers.
By the way, I really like the way Eurasian is like really funny, because you're like, you got Eurasian thing.
Sounds like you are Asian.
You got your Italian.
You got your Italians. You got your Eurasians. But then essentially, they also did rhinos, and rhinos, they drop into new territory by helicopter while hung upside down. So it's like Operation Dumbo Drop, but different.
What?
One of the cool ones that I saw is they reintroduced gray wolves to Yellowstone National Park.
This one's so fascinating.
And they had been gone from Yellowstone for 70 years, and it had huge effects across the entire ecosystem. The elk population expanded unchecked. It overgrazed on willow and aspen trees, and then beavers had no food or shelter and almost went extinct because the wolves went extinct. And so in 2020, there were 94 wolves back in there and 500 in the general area, but essentially they're having to constantly work to keep that population alive, because I think the main thing that drove the wolves to extinction was humanity having livestock around, because a wolf pack will kill livestock. And so I think farmers were killing wolves to protect their livestock type thing. But that was the first one that kind of made me think like, oh, they have to consider all of the possible elements here.
Yeah, it's
an entire food chain. And one of these that was reintroduced was a variety of beaver in Europe too. And so there's all of these things that they have to try and figure out, like, how can these things be put back in there? But they also had an issue where they put North Carolina had red wolves, and they've reintroduced them, but they've mismanaged the project so bad that they're almost extinct again for the second time.
Wow.
So there's a lot of management to it, but it's really cool to see kind of how this works. But essentially they say that the reintroductions of these species will sometimes take multiple years and phases to try and get them reestablished in an ecology. And it was just crazy to read about all of these things I hadn't really been thinking about. So they have to consider the role it played in the ecosystem. And if it's a predator, they have to be even more careful, because it can
overpredate.
Yeah, you can very easily wipe out other populations of things.
Man.
But in the end, they have saved a ton of different animals this way. And there's some that will also like kind of help like ecological impacts very specifically. Like they brought bandicoots back, which to be honest, I didn't realize that was a real animal for a long time.
What?
But they're apparently a small shrew-like marsupial, and they take dry leaves and they call them flammable fuel loads, and they actually reduce the risk of bushfire by just having this one animal in your ecology.
What?
And so there's a lot of things that you can see kind of a bunch of different ways this kind of cascades down into affecting everything.
That's insane. So they had more forest fires because there were less bandicoots.
Yep.
That's bonkers.
They did a 2020 study that highlighted species reintroduction as one of the most effective ways to save endangered animals. Without these projects, species such as, I don't know, this looks like a Polish name that I can't pronounce, so I'm sorry, Przewalski's horse and the Guam rail would almost certainly be extinct in the wild. And the same study estimates that conservation action between 1993 and 2020 saved up to 40% of birds and mammals from extinction, and that the rate of extinction would have been 3 or 4 times higher during that period without the efforts of those conservation scientists.
Good Lord.
So pretty crazy.
Yeah, I guess the subtext of all of that is the reason they're probably going extinct anyway is us as well, which is pretty funny.
People, so yeah.
It's like we did it. We actively
stopped what we were doing.
Yeah.
Some other ones we're doing.
That's so interesting, though. I love that. I had heard about the elk thing with the red wolves, but I didn't realize that it affected beaver. Like that's so weird.
Yeah, and then beavers have such a strong effect on like they consider. I can't remember what they call that. There's like a specific word for animals that are so important to an ecosystem. If they're gone, it changes fundamentally. And beavers are one of those because of how they affect the riverways.
Yeah. Man, that's fascinating. So, like, do they have recent ones, like the most recent one?
The most recent one. And a lot of these are fairly recent. Let me see if I can find one that's very recent.
I would love to see a video of them flying around a rhino, you know? like what is that rhino thinking?
They definitely have a photo of the upside down rhino, and all of this will be in the show notes.
They bring them upside down?
Yeah, no, I think this is how they transport the rhinos right there.
Oh my.
100% just sedated and upside down, hanging from
why wouldn't they make little I mean, hey, there's smarter people at work than I.
I'm sure they I mean, it could be because they're 3,000 pounds. You know, they're gigantic, and so it might be kind of a pain to like get them in and out of a helicopter. So like, you just hang on. We're going to drop you off where you need to be.
That is fascinating.
Oh, it's better for their health than lying them on their sides, is what they said. So yeah, science, everybody. Hang here.
See, I was picturing like just them being upright and having like a little thing underneath them, you know, with the legs poking out. Like they have for dolphins and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they tried that too.
Not that dolphins have legs.
I'm
holes.
Curious what the process was like. It's like, you know what? We've tried putting them in there on their side. They don't seem to like it. What else could we do?
What could we do?
We could hang it pinata style.
Yeah.
Outside the helicopter.
Some brilliant scientist. I got it. Hang them upside down. And everyone's like, oh.
It will look hilarious too.
That's so funny. So they just get brought and then they're on their backs and then they wake up and they're like, I'm on my back.
But yeah, this is one that's kind of a recent success story because their population was decimated in the 20th century with less than 2,400 left in the wild by the 90s. And then in recent years, they have more than doubled their numbers back.
Good
on the rhinos.
Look at us doing that.
No, and it's one of the silver linings of the whole pandemic is there are a lot of animals that have started to recover because people can't go do just people things everywhere.
That is depressing.
It is in a way, but
but this is hopeful. I guess.
Like, everybody's staying home and not wrecking everything is great sometimes.
Hey, whatever works for humankind, I suppose.
But yeah, no, just and generally a cool thing that science has helped doing. Save some species.
Very nice. Well, I have something that I would love to share. I just shared an episode with you.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with science. It has nothing to do with furthering
I don't
the
know.
humankind.
It might have to do with science.
Who knows? So recently there has come out on Netflix a show called Auntie Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun. It's a very wacky, weird show with three guys who are like tight-knit group, comedy group, and they kind of came out of nowhere in the United States, at least. It just kind of released, and it was like, what is this? So of course I'm like, what is this? And I go through this whole thing. Auntie Donna has been around since 2012 in Melbourne, Australia. And they have been doing this. I'll read a little bit of their bio in here. But they've been doing this since then and have countless like YouTube series that they've done. One is called 1999, and they actually won awards for that in Australia. So Auntie Donna developed the award-winning 1999 web series exclusively for YouTube, thanks to Screen Australia and Google's Skip Ahead funding. I don't know what that means, but
I don't know either.
They got funding.
Sounds interesting, though.
Yeah. Before moving on to television with Trendy, the first piece of local content commissioned by Comedy Central Australia. So they've been around for quite some time. And I learned that every time they do a new show or a series or whatever, it's always called Auntie Donna's thing. It's Auntie Donna's 1999, Auntie Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun. And none of them are Auntie Donna. There's no character named Auntie Donna. Like, it's just the name. I don't understand. Go to YouTube. There are amazing live shows that they put on that are just insane. They're so insane. You watched the first episode with me.
Yes, and it is wild, like absurdist craziness.
Oh,
it's so funny though.
What's amazing to me is it's so contemporary with comedy in that they have these really strong jokes, like really strong, like the everything's a drum sketch at the top. The bit is everything's a drum until something happens, and it gets dark, like that's the overarching thing. But around that, they just build in all this insane stuff. It's like his everything's a drum is the thing, and they drum on his penis.
Yep.
There's a part where he's drumming on a toaster and just demolishing it.
Essentially, they destroy the house.
Yeah, they're destroy. One guy punches a hole through the wall, and his hand's all bloody when he pulls it out. And it's like that's not really the bit, but they're building this weird thing around the bit, and it's very contemporary. And that's why I think Scott Aukerman from Comedy Bang Bang and Earwolf, he produced this with Ed Helms, actually, the Netflix series. And I think because they saw themselves in that comedy, like Comedy Bang Bang, the show on Netflix, just like it really does have the same humor where it's just, again, they have the main bit and then they build around it these little one-off things. But they brought this to Americans to be like, look, and my God, they're so funny. The next episode, like every episode is great.
Honestly, they're probably doing great. That I do feel like that style is popular right now.
Yeah. Well, because it's gone so far beyond the like setup punchline, It's no longer that. It's like they're even usurping the punchlines. They usurp the setup even, where it's like, you thought this was set up, it's not. You thought this was the punchline, it's not. The whole thing is it leaves you wondering what the joke is, and then it ends and you're like, my God, what a ride that was.
And I'm trying to remember, I think they've built this entire thing just on like YouTube, essentially.
Yeah.
It feels like I read something on Reddit about like they were just kind of putting their stuff out there and getting a fan base kind of the slow, steady way. And so now they've hit it.
Yeah, 2012 they started. They had the debut show Auntie Donna in pantsuits.
Because pantsuits is a great word.
Yeah, and it was nominated for. And I didn't think they. Well, this is their website, so they're probably tongue in cheeking it, but was nominated for the illustrious Melbourne International Comedy Festival's Golden Gibbo Award. Don't really know what some of those words mean.
Yeah, I don't know the context of
Might
it to
be
know
a
if
little
that's
like Melbourne. What is that?
what is a Melbourne?
Very Australian, I guess. But it's great. It's a really fun deep dive to go through their YouTube stuff. I played that song for you, Bigoted Bill.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. And they do a really nice job of making fun of the like dirt bags of comedy too.
Sure.
Which I love, because it's like you don't have to be a total jerk to be a comedian anymore.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to share that. I think that they have an amazing show, that they're just going to keep churning out this amazing stuff. Really funny, really good musicians as well.
Yeah, no, it is really funny. So yeah, it's definitely something that everybody should check out. I discovered something from, shout out Atlas Obscura, one of our favorite sites to discover things. This guy, if I were ever to go back to school, I have figured out what I would want to go back for. I read a story about someone who is getting their PhD in ghost whiskey. And yes, you did hear that correct. And I'm sorry, once again, this is one of those names that like it's Irish, and so I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but it looks like Fiona O'Connor has been studying specifically whiskeys that aren't able to be made now, because there was in Ireland at the time, which is still hugely popular on distilling whiskey. There was an old style called pot still whiskeys, and he started digging into what these recipes were, what these specific whiskeys were that have essentially gone by the wayside as people have started getting faster on production. And so this was something that even in the 1800s, Ireland was great at making whiskey, and it was everywhere. And these things started to kind of fall back a little bit, but since then more money has come into the game, into like Ireland, and they've started pushing the marketing, and it's really back. And so he's had the opportunity to work with some of these breweries and to dig in with them and essentially kind of take the angle of, hey, let's rediscover some of these old style whiskeys.
So is he learning about them in this way so that he can make them, or he literally can't?
I think both. Because he's trying to, but he is literally working on his PhD thesis is on ghost whiskey. So his entire PhD presentation is going to be on extinct forms of whiskey, essentially. And I don't know what exactly degree lets you kind of get a doctorate in this, but that's what he's doing. But he is resurrecting recipes that haven't been tasted in 100 years, because literally just the way they were distilling it went away, and they just fell out of favor. Maybe even the companies went down. And so he has spent a ton of time digging through old research and trying to find old recipes, learn new distillation methods from things that are no longer like practical or the easiest way to do it, and has done all of this and he kind of just says because he loves whiskey. So he was exposed to drinking, but essentially he was, and I think it's a history degree, because
that makes sense.
He basically, he says that since he was old enough to drink, he loved whiskey. But he was on a different career path 10 years ago. He was studying medieval history and literature, which
okay. Well, close. That kind of goes in there.
You could see it.
Yeah.
There's drinking in both of those things. You can see it happening. But yeah, he was at UC Berkeley and began part-time work as a speaker at a whiskey bar. And strangely, he started drinking a lot of whiskey, and he's like, I kind of like this stuff. And then it's a typical story. You hear it a lot.
Boy meets dog, or boy meets whiskey meets liver.
But yeah, then he basically just kept going. He just kept digging in. And so he was essentially already training as like an educator and a historian, and then started digging in. And so he kind of first started with the history of Irish single pot still whiskey in 2015. And that was all part of that research. And so he's just kept going. He's kind of like, you can see he would touch this random point and he'd be like, okay, that's kind of cool. And he would just go that way.
That's so funny.
And so So basically, in 2014, there were very few Irish pot still whiskeys left to write about. Even for whiskey fans, Irish pot still as a style was something of an unknown drink in those days. And in 1915, Ireland was the leading producer of whiskey and was going crazy, but then they were decimated by literally the world wars. So
wow.
they probably just everything had to switch. There was British trade restrictions, there was prohibition in the U.S., and there was Ireland and the U.K. stuff going on. So all those things went away, but then the 70s, a bunch of actually no, it was in the 70s. There was only 2 major distilleries left in Ireland. But then in the late 80s, a French distilling firm put money back in. And so it restarted that entire industry in Irish distilleries. Now they're back up to 30 distilleries in Ireland compared to the 2 that was there.
But they're not doing that
not
type
this
of process
style anymore. They're distilling whiskey, but he is doing like a 200-year-old style of distilling that I'm sure they're all like, this is old and we don't want it. But, and I mean, I guess I'll throw a quote out here. It's funny. When he was talking about using this specific style. And so he was studying even like changes in mash bills. So it was like the whiskey to grain recipes for making the whiskey.
That's what I was curious about.
And literally from 1760 to the 1970s. So it essentially, the way that they were distilling this, it has I think it's more viscous. Like the whiskey, you can feel the difference in your mouth, and you can use a lot of different grains, and you can do stronger flavors. It's like a whole different thing. And his quote was, "I was afraid they taste like shite, but they all taste entrancing." Kind of beautiful.
I was afraid they taste like shite.
See, I can't do an Irish accent, so yeah, it probably sounded more like that.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, did he just revive this and he's going to unveil it? And everyone's like, this tastes like crap.
Possibly. No, but the amount of work in this, I think people are going to look for those subtle flavors. They're going to look for, how is this different? Not like
if it's thicker. That's so interesting to me.
It sounds very odd, but yeah, I won't get into all the what the exact stilling process is distilling, because it's very technical and everything
this
that.
Guy's doing a doctorate on it.
But essentially,
discuss that.
There is a PhD in ghost whiskey out there looking to revive hundreds of year-old whiskey recipes from Ireland, and it's going to be fun to taste them if he can do it.
Oh yes, if it's not $1,000 a shot.
And I mean, yeah, it might be, because if it's a way worse process and it's way harder to make more, it's
speaking of
might be expensive.
Drinking and just maybe not having any idea about a thing that you might normally have on you all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So I did have a.
That was a bad segue.
No, that was a beautiful segue to my Amazon discovery this week. Is the weirdest. I don't know what exactly it's for. Apparently, they were even on Shark Tank, and I'm sure they got laughed off of there.
Zach showed it to me, and I read it, and I go, I don't know what it is.
This is called the No Phone, original cell phone, and by original cell phone, it's not a phone. So about this item, this is on Amazon. This is Amazon page. No screen, no data plan, no battery, no charger, no phone. It is a plastic rectangle that says no phone on it. It's roughly new iPhone shaped. And it's nothing. So product description. The No Phone is a fake phone for people who are addicted to real phones. As seen on ABC's Shark Tank, the No Phone offers the only true alternative to constant hand-to-phone contact.
Wow. True alternative, really?
Their premise is everybody loves holding a phone, right? You love that feeling in your hand. Why not have this? So there's over 12,000 no phones sold. Not an interesting stat. I mean, it's more than there should be, but not like a huge number. You know what I mean?
That's a great way to describe the number.
There's 70 billion of these have sold. It's like there's 12,000 people paid for a plastic rectangle.
How much is it per phone or per no phone? God, I hate that.
It is. There's not even buying options right now. We're gonna dig in though. It's worth finding out. New for $16.
Because I'm just picturing it being as expensive as a phone.
$800 or equal payments for 24 months. They really lean into it. No Wi-Fi, no camera, no phone. The entire thing is based around. It looks like a phone. but there's nothing. It's just a rectangle.
Good
They have
Lord.
about the startup section that is clearly terribly photoshopped pictures of 4 people. Although I'm amazed that this takes 4 people to produce this. Describe your product in 3 words. Not a phone. How did you come up with the idea for this product? After seeing someone use a selfie stick. What makes your product special? The no phone is completely toilet bowl resistant because it's a piece of plastic in the shape of a rectangle. And yeah, basically, it's a weird thing, but what I wanted to dive in on. So yeah, if anybody wants to see this, it will be linked in the show notes. I would recommend not buying this unless you just really want it.
Wait, that guy bought it because he saw a selfie stick?
No, they invented it because they saw a selfie stick, is what they said.
What?
I think it's all a little self-aware.
Jabs at phones?
Yes, I think that, and I think there are a couple of these reviews that just say "Okay, Boomer," because it's like they're basically like you're just mad that there are people who have cell phones.
Well, why did you invent this? Oh, my car broke down and I couldn't call, or I could call a mechanic from where I was, and I thought, what would be great is if I couldn't
do this, if I had a plastic rectangle instead.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so there are several reviews that just say "Okay, Boomer" because they don't like the premise of it. So they're not into it. But there are some that there's some people that are like, this is a stupid product. This is the Pet Rock 2.0. But that guy who made Pet Rocks became a millionaire by selling rocks. Is that an idiot or a genius?
That's a genius. The people who bought it are not.
Yeah. But here's a review that'll probably tell you everything you need to know. I'm gonna try and leave the weird grammar intact. I know it is a joke, but this looked really different from the photos on Amazon. You should at least make a better phone model. Maybe not using premium material, but the build quality needs to be better. The phone lost its value to prank other people if it's not nicely built, and $14 isn't cheap for a prank toy.
Is it a prank?
That's the reviews are a mixture of, oh, I'm gonna act like I'm talking to my phone and get mad and throw it out the window.
Oh,
that's like, some people think it's for that. Some people are like, I like it because it's just a thing. I don't know. So here's another one. Genuinely does help. How I use it. I make a point to leave it semi-viewable whenever I'm working while leaving my phone in another room. Then when I have the desire to pick up my phone and check some apps, I make sure to pick up the no phone as though to check it. This helps further break the conditioning of picking up the phone and using it for positive neurotransmitters. So I guess this, I can't tell. This is a weird mixture of people who are like, this is stupid and I still want it. This is stupid and I don't want it. There's definitely a group of stop making plastic crap that's going to end up in a landfill that's useless. There is some group that essentially literally think that people are addicted to the feel of a phone in their hand and not to the dopamine you get from an app or social media. Right. I think they're missing a thing. The actual holding a phone's nothing.
Yeah.
Playing Candy Crush is the thing. Getting the things.
Yeah. That guy who picks up the phone, why wouldn't he just put a
do whatever
index cards
spinner
there? Yeah, and then he picks up an index card and goes, "Oh, this isn't a phone.
I don't have Facebook on this."
You could literally not have anything there, and it would be the same thing. Oh well.
I shouldn't.
Nothing.
I'm working.
Yes.
But yeah, no. This is a very weird cross section of consumers.
Yeah, it's like the banana slicer. Yeah. But no, it really is.
This is not nearly as aware as the banana slicer.
No, not the reviews.
Yeah.
But it's okay, I get it, but you don't need it.
Yeah, you don't. And you don't technically need a banana slicer, but at least it slices bananas.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. This is nothing like banana slicer.
It's a paperweight.
Has no function. Unless it's a prank.
Although I'm not convinced on how effective the banana slicer is at its chosen job, yes. But it is able to do it.
Is there another review in there that's super great or anything?
I mean, I'll leave you with this one. Kind of worked. 3-star review. Now I'm addicted to rectangles.
That's good. Now that's a self-aware person. Yes, I like that. I like that a lot.
So yeah, if anybody wants a no phone, don't spend money on it, but you can at Amazon.com.
Yeah, you know what? Don't spend it on Amazon. Hit one of us up. We'll make you a no phone.
Yeah, we'll make you a rectangle.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah. Just send us your address and $30 and we'll send you something.
$30. Well, that does lead us into my final discovery today, and that was this awesome Instagram profile called Affirmations. And I say that weirdly because it is affirmations with 3 F's on Instagram. And what makes this so great is it's a parody of mantras and affirmations. I repost them all the time. I think they're so funny. But we were talking about it and we were like, wait, where do affirmations even come from? So it brought us down a rabbit hole, as questions like that often do.
Yeah.
And we looked it up. So affirmations, this has it listed out like people have no idea what these are. But affirmations are essentially the practice of positive thinking and self-empowerment. And they usually take the form of short statements or conscious thoughts set in the present tense. Super interesting.
Yeah, it's taking it to the, here's what it is.
Yeah.
Never heard of this.
It also says that we usually repeat themselves to help in terms of like a no phone to really
drive
our
it home.
brains. Yeah. It says that cynics obviously exist, but that's because should.
Because they need more affirmations.
Yeah. But the history of affirmations is interesting. I'm just going to read this out. But the father of affirmations is considered by many to be the French psychologist and pharmacist Émile Coué. I did say that correctly, I believe. In the early 20th century, Coué noticed that when he told his patients how effective a potion was as he gave it to them, the results were much better than if he said nothing. He realized that ideas that occupy our minds exclusively become reality and developed a form of autosuggestion, asking his patients to repeat the words, quote unquote, every day in every way, I am getting better and better, to themselves every day.
Those are literally what he had on repeat.
Yeah, that's probably could have condensed that a little bit.
Did he have live, laugh, love in there?
Yeah. Yeah. And then he said, breathe, believe, coexist. And he had him write coexist with all the different.
It took him forever to write the last part.
Yeah. Because what is this? 20th century? Yeah. I don't even know I don't know what all the things are. But Coué discovered that his methods didn't work if his patients made an independent judgment about their affirmation. And he concluded that you really needed to believe what you were saying for it to come true. So weird. So it's basically hypnotizing yourself is what how it started. It's like you're convincing yourself of something.
Yeah, and it's like placebo effect a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But then whatever this is on this is on talentedladiesclub.com, I should say.
Bonus discovery right there.
So this isn't like, we're not talking to doctors here. We're talking about doctors. We're doctor adjacent.
Doctor adjacent. These things are on Wikipedia. Yes. They can be confirmed. And
I only bring that up because the next section is why some affirmations don't work. And I probably have a much more extensive list than the Talented Ladies Club does of why some don't. But they have examples of affirmations that are bad, poor affirmations. These are funny. I'm supermodel, thin, and toned. That won't work because when you look in the mirror and it tells you you're still carrying your baby weight, whatever, and you haven't been to the gym for years, it takes you out. You can't be hypnotized with something that's just presented to you, right?
Get rid of your mirrors.
Yeah,
Checkmate.
Get rid of your mirrors. TalentedLadiesClub.com tells you to get rid of all your mirrors. It doesn't say that. Another bad example is I'm running a successful multinational business, right? Because if you're not, then you're not. You're not going to convince anyone or yourself of that. I am wealthy beyond my wildest dreams. See, I guess
they're all too extreme.
Yeah, it's way beyond. This one's funny. I'm going to read why this isn't is a bad one. Probably won't ring true if you're struggling to pay your household bills and haven't been able to afford any new clothes in months.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So if you're poor, you can't tell yourself that you're wealthy.
You can't do things that can very obviously disprove to yourself on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
I'm 7 feet tall,
Yeah.
No, I'm not. And then the next section is about choosing an affirmation that will work.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So essentially, they break it down like goals. Like this is essentially something that will work is a goal. Here's an example. I enjoy and am appreciated for the work that I do. And I guess that could be disproven if you're constantly being told that you're doing a bad job.
If you work with terrible people.
I am on a journey to owning my own business. Of course, if you're going to own a business.
Yeah, journeying.
I respond to stressful situations with calm and wisdom.
I feel like that person is probably not responding very calmly. if you're like, I just imagine somebody like about to lose it. I respond calmly.
Yes. I am relaxed and confident in my job interview. Man, I love the idea that these are just getting more and more specific. I am happy and I enjoy doing all the dishes. What? That's
Does it
weird.
have to be this like, and I mean, no one will ever say that in their own mind that they enjoy doing dishes.
Yeah, right.
But what about like, I'm going to get a hamburger today. Does that count as an affirmation?
I don't know if that's an affirmation or just
just a statement. Just lunch plans.
Yes. Yeah. So it's super interesting. And at the end, it has a little start creating your own affirmations today. We believe that affirmations can and do work, like Dr. Coué. But we'd be wary of taking a one size fits all approach. That's a pretty good way to sum it up. Talented Ladies Club.
Yeah, that works.
They continue on, but I'm going to stop there because that's a good place to sum it up. Now, back to the Instagram account. They post slideshows on Instagram of about 10 affirmations that are totally made up. I hope. I think that it's meta enough. You've seen some of them. I think that it's made up. I sure hope. But I'm going to, in today's episode, just reading through a few affirmations.
So yeah, everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week. And we hope you enjoy these affirmations to help you get through to next week.
I am sane. I am sane. I am beauty blast. I only attract people that are good for me. Someone uses Instagram because of my content. I can invent many new crazy things. True love is right around the corner. All my hard work is now paying off. I am clean teen. I'm attractive and attracting beauty. And lastly, so far this week truly has been memorable.
It really has. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it